Storms, rising sea levels, ocean acidification, flooding and coastal erosion. Climate change and natural hazards are a major threat to people's livelihoods and communities, especially in coastal areas. Coastal communities have a long-standing relationship with the sea and water. They attach many values and memories to the heritage sites located along the coast or even underwater. Sites that are threatened by climate change and natural hazards. Will we be able to preserve these coastal and underwater sites in the face of climate change? The THETIDA will develop a preventive conservation strategy that includes monitoring, risk preparedness and management. Together with an interdisciplinary team of researchers, experts and practitioners, the strategy will be developed, tested and validated. Partners will use evidence-based monitoring frameworks, innovative tools and participatory processes. At the heart of the participatory processes are the Living Labs. These are multi-stakeholder platforms that enable co-design and co-creation of adaptation strategies with socio-cultural values at their core. Within these Living Labs, the THETIDA will be able to co-create, test and validate its new technologies, services, tools and systems in real-life contexts. Participants are at the heart of the Living Labs. They should represent a diverse and inclusive cross-section of stakeholders and end users. They are the local people who speak from their own experiences and needs in relation to the pilot sites. Because of their diversity, stakeholders may have different roles, tasks, responsibilities and values towards their heritage sites. Involving local people means that the Living Labs can reflect the uniqueness of each site. Each site has specific needs, requirements and priorities. In addition to co-creation and testing, the Living Labs can play an important role in raising awareness of the values of heritage and how these are threatened by the impacts of climate change. Finally, Living Labs will provide a platform for inclusive decision-making. Tough choices may need to be made regarding heritage conservation, risk management and climate adaptation, and it is important that local authorities, experts, professional groups, businesses and communities make decisions together and reach a consensus on the future of the sites. In summary, the Living Labs focus on two main tasks: value and impact assessment and co-creating future scenarios and roadmaps. Let's take a closer look at these tasks in combination with some of the tools designed to carry them out. The first task, value and impact assessment, aims to gain insight into the uniqueness of the site. What is appealing? What is its history? How does it contribute to the community? Most importantly, it is about assessing what climatic and natural hazards threaten these sites and how solutions will affect the heritage. Have the sites experienced extreme weather events? Which parts are particularly vulnerable? And how can climate adaptation contribute to preservation? To capture these values and impacts, interaction with local communities is essential. Interviews are one of many question-based conversational tools used to gather individual ideas, reflections and narratives. They help to inform participants about the Living Labs, gain an understanding of the local context, and collect stakeholder identification data for scaling up the Living Labs. In addition to question-based approaches, experience-based approaches, such as site visits or excursions, can provide interesting input. A visit to the site may evoke memories associated with the site, as well as honest responses to the current state of conservation of the heritage site. Perhaps, the visible effects of extreme weather conditions will reaffirm the urgency. Let's dive into the second task, co-creating future scenarios and roadmaps. This task is about looking to the future of the site in terms of risk monitoring and sustainable management. How do you envisage future use? What materials and preservation techniques must be considered? And which future scenario would you like to see? It is important that the vision for the future is translated into a roadmap for action. Are there immediate threats? Which values have priority? What is the shared long-term vision for the site? To arrive at these scenarios and roadmaps, co-design methods such as participatory mapping are used. Mapping can be used as a synthesis tool of the first task, as participants create collective maps of the pilot sites. These maps represent relevant heritage values, community interests, priorities and impacts. It creates a common platform for participants to directly express their interests, expectations, perceptions and experiences of the heritage site. design charrettes can be held to brainstorm about the future. The charrettes focus on visualizing risks and hazards, as well as possible adaptation, conservation and development measures. These are carried out with the local community to build consensus. The results can then be translated into concrete actions in the form of a roadmap. These are just some of the tools we have at our disposal to conduct a living lab. However these tasks are approached, it is important that the living labs reflect the principles outlined by the THETIDA. The most important of these is that the stakeholders involved reflect the local community. They should be diverse and inclusive. Only when the whole community is represented can the future of their heritage be guaranteed.